Yeah. Woo! Yeah, Nick. Welcome out. Thanks for coming. He wanted me to do the real intro. I couldn't even pull it off. Before we get started, though, thank you, everyone, for coming. If you've never been to a Thuzio event before, my name is Nick Spike. I run the Thuzio LA market. If you don't know me, come introduce yourself, because as you can tell, I'll talk to anyone. And I'm friendly, too. If you do know me, then you probably know why you're here, which is what we try to do is put on really engaging and interesting events with legends of the sport like we have tonight here with Mr. Derek Fisher of the Lakers and the Sparks now. Before we start, I'm going to give you a little bit of a thanks. First of all, I have to thank Westfield Century City. This is an incredible venue, the Cabana. I've heard from so many of you that had no idea it was even here. Well, now you do, and if you want to know more, let me know, and I'll introduce you to the team. They'd love to host your event. Also, Hornburg, which is the local Jaguar Land Rover dealership here in Santa Monica. There's a beautiful Jaguar I-Pace parked at the valet, which you might have saw coming in if you drove. It's really cool. Go check it out. And Insperity, they sponsor the photos. A lot of you will see the photos. If you want a photo that you were taken before, it's going to be on Thuzio.com after the event. And I got to thank my people from J.P. Morgan and Company, always supportive here out in LA. We thank you so much. Oh, he gave the shout out to Rick. Rick gets the shout out. And I won't be asking the questions. We brought in a pro. His name is Yogi Roth. He was on the USC football staff. He's now on Pac-12 Network, and he does an awesome podcast. One of the greatest dudes there is. Yogi, take it away.
Thank you very much, Nick, Thuzio, all the sponsors, and of course, Derek, for showing up here tonight. We pride ourselves here at these events on them being intimate, and you guys get treated to something very special. The goal when I get the opportunity to moderate these is to take you inside the mind of our guests, and tonight it's Derek. Now, here in Los Angeles, we've celebrated many great Trojans. Not necessarily from Arkansas, with the mascot as the Trojan, if you guys weren't familiar, Arkansas Little Rock Trojans. I want to start to kind of set the stage for the night, and I want to do it with a video clip. So can we please roll the first clip of the night?
True. So Sunday, when we show up here, the same determination, fight, grit, belief, confidence, we got to show up with that again on Sunday. They're not going to quit.
Derek Fisher with a clutch three. Here's Fisher for three. Yes! 3-point-1.
Same type of mates he had.
Fisher to the basket, gets hammered, and he puts it in. Derek Fisher hard to the basket.
Now we've seen, yes, give that a round of applause, please. Now, Derek, we've seen so many clutch shots from you, but what I loved about that clip was how you talked to the team. You talked about fight, grit, belief, and confidence. So the hope tonight is that all of you in the audience, you take something from Derek back around the fight, the grit, how to compete, and confidence. So I'm curious for you, your origin story. Where did you begin to develop those character traits? Because you took them to the highest level in your respective sport.
Honestly, man, back to Little Rock. I mean, you referenced Arkansas Little Rock and the Trojans, and my upbringing, family, coaches, like literally a village of people that always at least tried to help me understand that anything that I ever wanted to accomplish, on a high level had to include those ingredients. I was, to no surprise today, I guess, I was never 6'6". I didn't shrink down to 6'1". So I was never the tallest, the fastest, the most athletic, the born to be superstar guy. So my advantages were always going to be fighting harder than you, working harder than you, being in greater shape than you, being more mentally tuned in to the game plan, the X's and O's, like all of these other things that would even the playing field for me because they actually were more talented and more skilled than I. So I think just as a young kid, like playing organized basketball, I never had the physical advantages, so the mental thing was my thing, and got a pretty big head, bro. I'm from the country, so this is real solid noggin up here. It's a lot of space, and I try to use it.
How old were you when you recognized that your key ingredient was going to be your work ethic, your competitiveness? Was that an edge for you always, or did you have this moment of, oh boy, look out, I got something in my back pocket that you may not know about across from me?
Well, I think there were these different moments. I think I always had a feel for the game. Like we in my house, like we grew up watching basketball. My parents played when they were younger. My older half brother, he played in college, got second round drafted in the NBA. So we were a basketball family. So I had a feel for the game, but there were like these different moments where I had real like hard choices to make about how good I wanted to be at it. And what's now called club team basketball. When I was younger, it was called AAU basketball. It still exists, but the club team thing is like taking over what AAU basketball used to be. We didn't play every weekend, and a lot of parents sitting here paying $180 for every weekend for every tournament, 52 weekends a year. That's not how the concept was for us growing up. We played for our school team during the school year. And then in the spring and summer, we played for our club team, AAU team, and then we went back to our school team. So 11, 12, 13, 14, I was a starter, playing minutes. And then at the age of 15, turning 16, we're at an AAU tournament. And the kids that were like similar in height to me at 12 and 13, 14 were all of a sudden like up here, and I was still down here. And so after starting for the first 4 years for this program that I played in, we had come in second in the nation, third in the nation, had never actually won the national championship. So 16 years old, 1990, national tournaments in San Antonio, Texas. And which is crazy to think that 14 years later.
We'll get there. Don't worry.
So I played 0 minutes in the national championship game of the AAU national tournament. 0. I was still wildly ecstatic that we won a national championship because we had come so close and not actually made it. And I remember getting back to Little Rock and like at age 16, like literally having to ask myself, okay, bro, like, what are you gonna do here? Because clearly, if the coach is not comfortable enough or doesn't trust you enough to have you out there in the championship game, that's more me than him, right? So at 16, I had to really decide, like, all right, I gotta get really serious about this. And I felt like that summer there was like a shift in my work ethic and how many hours I was putting in and just the way I approached everything. Not that I wasn't serious before. I've always kind of had that serious like leadership type thing. But after that feedback of like, you were not good enough for the coach to feel like he could put you in that game. He felt more comfortable putting him in than you. I didn't feel comfortable with that, so I had to do something about it.
I think sometimes the hardest moments of when we got to look ourselves in the mirror are the ones that give the greatest opportunity for growth. So within that, at 16, you come home and you're like, okay, man, what's up? Like, why didn't I play in the Natty? To the work ethic that got you a scholarship in the Sun Belt Conference. Were you ever thinking the NBA, or were you thinking, can I utilize basketball to get me an education?
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, no, the NBA was so far from my thinking. Like, growing up in Little Rock, the closest professional sports team was probably the Dallas Cowboys or, maybe St. Louis Cardinals or, definitely not in Little Rock. So the collegiate athletes were like the pinnacle, of like athletic performance. So I grew up watching the Razorbacks of Arkansas play basketball and football. So I wanted to be like those guys. And And so, and in the South, like, I don't think it's still that way because social media and like Tinder and all of these different things, like they've completely changed the game for young college graduates. Because when I was 21, 22, you go to college, graduate college, you get a job, you meet a nice girl, you get married, you start a family, the end. Like in Arkansas, that's what you were supposed to do. Don't do it. Not literally the end, ladies. I'm sorry. That was not what I meant to imply. Is that life is over when you. The
end of one chapter, beginning of another one.
That's not what I meant at all. So especially, and my dad had like, I don't want to say literally beat this into my head, but close enough. Like, that was the plan, right? Use the basketball athletic scholarship to get a good education, to get a college degree, meet some cool people, get a good job. That's the life. So when I went to Little Rock, I wasn't thinking about the NBA. Like, I mean, two things happened. One, the coach that I originally went to play for, the head coach, we played a really like terrible style of play, really slow. He was a madman, like just off the charts, kind of crazy. And by the time my sophomore year came around, we actually like, and this is a true story, we, as a team, we decided to boycott going to practice one day. It was that bad in terms of how he spoke to us, how he talked to us, how he treated us. We did not want to play basketball for this person anymore. So here I am, sophomore in college. We boycott practice. We're clueless, right? Where do you think we went when we decided not to show up to the gym and practice that day? We went to the mall, like most high school or college kids would do. Like, that's the place where you feel most comfortable when you're not where you're supposed to be. I'm at the mall. And so we're at the mall, and the coach's wife and daughter are walking down the mall. And she's looking at her like, aren't you guys supposed to be at practice? Like, so that didn't work. Like, we weren't able to hide the fact that we weren't at practice. So later that evening, I'm 19 years old, I'm a sophomore, but I'd already kind of become the leader of this team. And so my dorm room, 7 o'clock, 7:30, the athletic director, the assistant athletic director show up to my dorm to sit down and have a conversation about what's going on with the team, the state of the team, what are the concerns, what's going on. So here I am, like, already experiencing these things from like a leadership position that played into feeling a level of like comfort and confidence in those leadership moments as a professional. I didn't know that then. So we just, we had a conversation and we said, look, man, we don't want to play for this guy again. We had like the biggest game of the year coming up on Saturday. We were like, look, if he's coaching, we're not playing. That's how everybody feels. It's nothing I can do. We got to do something about it. And so they decided to put him under review, not fire him. And at the end of the season, they'll reevaluate his job, whatever. We lose the next 4 games. He tries to be a nice guy during this probational period. And then after we lose 4 games, he's like, all right, you sons of... we're going to go back to doing things my way around here. I've been trying to be nice to you guys. So the rest of the year is terrible. We lose. He gets fired. Wimp Sanderson, who had coached at the University of Alabama for a long time, coached Robert Horry in college. He coached Derek McKee, James Hollywood Robinson, Latrell Sprewell, number of professional players. So he comes and takes the job at our school. which changes the profile of the program. We also had a couple players come and transfer to Little Rock when he came to take the job. So like the type of things that start to happen that end up leading to then the coach that coached a lot of NBA players is now coaching me, so that then when he calls NBA scouts to say, look, I got a decent little guard down here in Little Rock, you should come check him out, there's actually credibility to that. Then a couple of the guys that transferred to the school, I was working out one day in the summer, new guy that transferred, he's working out on the other end of the court. We don't know each other. We're kind of doing like this standoff, like, you know, I don't know you, you don't know me, we're on the same team, but like who's gonna blink first kind of thing. So we end up kind of coming together and talking, and the first thing he says is, are you trying to go to the show? Okay, well, are you talking about the movies? Are you talking about the matinee? What show are you speaking of?
And how old are you?
At this point, I'm 19. And I'm like, what show are you referencing? It's like, what you mean, the NBA, like the show? Honestly, man, I hadn't really thought, you know, that much about it, but I mean, maybe, sure, why not? And that was like one of those moments where like kind of a seed got planted, and okay, well maybe I could try to do it, and look, here we are.
And there you were, the 24th pick right here by the Lakers in 1996. When that happened, what was the conversation with your dad like?
After the draft, I don't think either one of us could talk really. The tears were flowing so heavily. He sacrificed a lot. You know, my mom sacrificed a lot, and there's like I think there's a different feeling you have when you know, like deep inside of you, that you literally earned this opportunity, whatever it is that opportunity you're getting a chance to experience at that time. Like that, there wasn't like somebody that knew somebody kind of thing, that like just because you kind of got invited to that, or you kind of made like, nah, you really worked your way into the position to be. That was the feeling, and that was the conversation that we had, was just like, we were thankful because we didn't see it coming really. And there was another guy in the draft that year whose name was also Derek, but his last name was Batee. So when Commissioner David Stern gets up and he's like, with the 24th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Derek, and there's like a split second pause of like, okay, which one? And mind you, in my opinion, the worst, like when all the guys go through the pre-draft workout process, they go work out at different teams that are going to be within the range of where they might get drafted. So for me, I was from late first round to second round to maybe out. So I had to work out for like 15 different teams because I didn't know which range I would be in. By the time I showed up to LA to work out for the Lakers, I had been to Orlando, Denver, Philadelphia, Detroit, everywhere. And then I got to LA on Friday. I get off the plane. We go to the Inglewood YMCA. It's like peanut shavings and dust, like 2 inches thick on the floor. And I was slipping and sliding, and they're asking me to, okay, dribble between your legs, change direction. Well, I have no traction on my shoes. I can't stop. I'm not making any shots. And I left thinking that was the worst workout of all of the workouts I've had. There's no way I was expecting the Lakers to still draft me at that point. I was like, yeah, no, they checked me off the list because that wasn't good. So when he was like, Derek, and then it's a blur after that. I can't tell you how many tears. It was an unbelievable moment.
it feels as though your career, 18 years, was a blur as well. To a lot of us here in LA, we just have this montage of moment after moment. We saw it moments earlier on that video. I'm curious around Phil Jackson, because he said about you that you were the spokesman for the Lakers regarding leadership. I'm curious why, and did you even agree with him when he said that? And if so, when did you feel that? Because with the alpha personalities in that locker room, within that organization, the walls and the rafters of that arena, I got to imagine feeling as though you're the leader of that team might feel a little bit big for somebody who at 16 wasn't even playing in the state championship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I always got that title, honestly. Like, it just kind of, like I said, even, you know, the story I told about, you know, being at Arkansas Little Rock, or just teams that I've been on, it kind of, without overtly trying to say that this is the role that I want to play, I want to be the leader, I want to be the captain, I want to be, it's almost like the group decides that that's what I should be. And I've always been willing to do whatever the team or the group needs in order for us to be successful. So, okay, since he doesn't want to talk to the media after losses, and since he doesn't want to do this, and I'll do it, whatever. Like, because we still need to, as a group, still present ourselves a certain way. Somebody needs to speak to the fact that we did play great, we didn't play great. You know, not allowing, you know, trying to control the narrative and the messaging about our team and our group, and not letting the media define what's going on or who we are or whatever. So I think, like, it didn't feel big, it felt natural, because I think that for me it's always about just like the game, and I think that my teammates always, like, I wasn't controlling those guys and like, I play with the smartest, greatest basketball players to ever play. Like, they didn't need me to tell them what to do. But I think they allowed me to lead them because they always knew. And I was talking to Mary Beth and a short minute ago about, like, the game of basketball was always what I was most committed to, my love for it. Right? And I think that my teammates always knew that when I was telling them something or getting on them. Like, I was in Atlanta last night doing NBA TV, and they film inside the NBA for TNT in the next studio over. So in between commercial breaks and halftime and all of that, Shaq and I get to catch up in the back. So even last night, he's telling all of these amazing stories about the things that I used to say to him when he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, especially in certain cities. And I just think that they were willing to receive the message because they knew that there were no ulterior motives or any other reasons why I was saying what I was saying, other than, like, that's what we're supposed to be doing if it's about winning the game. I'm not saying that because it's gonna make me look better. I'm not saying that or asking you to do that because I'm gonna get paid more. Your check is way bigger than mine. I'm just saying that because that's what we're supposed to be doing if we're about winning. And I just think they always kind of understood that. And every team that I've ever played on, I think that's been the most consistent part of who I am as a basketball player. So then when I ask more of my teammates, well, they know that I'm not asking anything of them that I haven't been willing to do or already done myself.
I think it's interesting in sports, and coaches have an adage, keep the main thing the main thing. And now we're in an era, you're coaching, obviously, new Sparks head coach, where it's so easy to put your persona ahead of the team's. And you didn't do that by example. I want to show a short example of a moment where the team clearly trusted you in one of the biggest stages in the history of the basketball game.
Ginobili will inbound. to Duncan. He gets doubled. Shaq all over him. He gets away, a fadeaway. He makes it with 4:10 left. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. 4:10 remaining in the fifth game. Here they go. They get it to Fisher. He scores! Derek Fisher scores at the buzzer.
There's moments in sports we just remember where we are when certain things happen.
Yeah.
I know you get asked about that all the time. I want to know, because there were 3 timeouts before that play. So does the play change? Like, is Kobe going to get it? Are you always going to get it? What happens to set up what might be one of the greatest moments in your career, let alone sports in general?
Well, not breaking news. I'm never supposed to get it when Kobe and Shaq are on the floor.
3 timeouts. Maybe they change it up.
That is it's never supposed to go to me in those situations. The 3 timeouts. Yeah, it was crazy, right? So Duncan makes the shot. That's probably the best defense that Shaq has ever played in his life. And Duncan still makes the shot. So that's discouraging, right? And so we go, first timeout, we go out. I think the Spurs call a timeout. We go back out. Then Phil calls a timeout. So, and the whole time, we're stunned. First of all, it was probably it might be one of the lowest scoring games in NBA playoff history. I think the final score was 73-72. At one point, I think we were ahead 71-57.
That's a lot.
So in a low-scoring game, for them to come back and then Duncan makes the shot so we're stunned that we're even in a position where now we're behind in a game that we were in full control of at one point. So during the timeouts, I'm stunned, but at the same time, I'm not defeated. And and this is how life works, right? There are certain things in life that happen and we don't realize what is tied to or connected to that it's going to be useful for later. So when I was in college, we played, this was my junior year, maybe senior. We played at Mississippi State in Starkville, SEC school against a little Sun Belt school from Little Rock, right? So we go on the road. This is the year Mississippi State ended up going to the Final Four that year. And we're going toe-to-toe, back and forth. Game is tied. 6 or 7 seconds left. I go to the hole, go up, boom. They block it out of bounds. 4 seconds left. I get it back. I go to the hole again, boom. They block it out of bounds. So now we're taking the ball out of bounds on the baseline with 0.2 seconds left in the game. And the game is tied. So, let's see. Okay, so the basket is there. I'm taking the ball out on the baseline. And you're my teammate.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So let's get on the floor here.
So,
okay.
All right, so the basket's here. And I'm taking the ball out. Now I got to switch this way. So that's the basket. I'm here. Okay, now go stand right there, Yogi, right there.
Yeah.
There you go, boom. So there's 0.2 seconds left. Not enough time to shoot the ball and catch it and shoot it. So the way we're lined up, we got 2 guys here. We got 1 guy at the top, 1 guy in the far corner. You're our most athletic player on the team.
Clearly.
Probably not actually true, but just let's go along with.
Let's go with it. Let's roll with it,
for the story. And so the referee's getting ready to hand me the ball, and literally all I do is, and when the referee gives me the ball and I slap it, he takes a step kind of towards me this way, and then he spins around his defender, and I throw the ball from the baseline right to the front of the rim right here. No, and all he does is tap it as the clock expires, and the little school from Little Rock just beat the best team in the SEC, right?
Woo.
So obviously I had no idea that almost 10 years later, I would be in a game where my team is down with 0.4 seconds left. So for me, I was not sitting there during these 3 timeouts thinking we have no shot to win this game, because I had been in this situation before where we won a game with 0.2 seconds left. I had no idea that that was going to take place, but it did. So in that moment, like I said, I'm never the first, second, or third option, actually, because you had Shaq, you had Kobe, you had Karl Malone, 3 of the greatest players to ever play. It's for them. So Shaq spins around for a lob to the front of the rim. That's not open. Kobe goes towards half court, and Robert Horry, who obviously had played with us for many years before that, he knows wherever Kobe is, somebody has to go to him, because he could mess around and catch it at half court and still make the shot. So Robert takes off to go double team Kobe. And it literally just left a vacuum right in front of me, wide open. And if you see the clip, I'm just standing there. I'm like, well, it's not coming to me. So, Shaq went that way, Kobe went that way. All these guys are scrambling around, and I'm just standing there. And then it was like literally a bowling alley, just vacuum of space that's right there. Well, I might as well just go right there. It's open. So I take off, and Gary Payton's taking the ball out of bounds. And a lot of dudes, I'm telling you, like, when you watch sports, like, a lot of times when they get a 5-second count or like something ridiculous happens and they didn't get it in bounds, it's because they had predetermined who they were supposed to be throwing it to. And in a lot of those situations, when you play with Kobe, you play with Shaq, you be like, those guys are like promised to kill you, essentially, if they don't get the ball in those situations. That's what they get paid to do. That's why they are the greatest of all time. So it takes a lot of courage to not try to still force it to Shaq or still somehow try to squeeze it to Kobe or Karl Malone and throw the ball to Derek Fisher. So Gary trusts me enough to still make the pass. And at that point, there was not a lot for me to think about other than I knew I had to turn, catch, and release all in one motion. I knew it couldn't be 3 different motions because I wouldn't have enough time to get it off.
That was a beautiful moment. All right, I want to get in 3 quick ones before we let you go. That moment, we all remember probably where we were. Another moment, I remember where I was, and I would imagine a lot of you did as well, and this was in Salt Lake City. You hadn't touched a ball for 4 days. Your daughter was going through a surgery that the public didn't know about at the time. This city of Los Angeles is very familiar with this, with your story, with Jake Olson at USC, the long snapper who's just finished his career, retinoblastoma. What was that moment like for when you walked back onto the floor? You described it as walking through the pearly gates, and then you hit another clutch shot. Sports are one thing, but when it comes to real life, intermingled with sports, that humanity, I think there's magic there, and you live that.
Yeah. When people ask me about the biggest shots of my career, .4 normally is the one that everybody assumes is the favorite one. And I think the one in 07 in Salt Lake City is my favorite one because of the impact that it went on to have, which I'll get to. The experience was, out of body, so to speak. I really had no idea how I even got to the arena, to be honest, because we had surgery in New York earlier in the day, and the plan was, after she was recovery and released from the hospital, that we were going to fly back to Salt Lake City anyway, because everything that could be done had been done, and we were just going to get on the plane, go back, and hope that the surgery worked, which we would find out in a few weeks later. So I hadn't planned on playing in the game that night. We were just getting back to Salt Lake City, and the team didn't know if I planned on playing, but they still wanted to make sure that, you know, if I was going to come over to the arena, that anything that the family needed or that I needed, they were all set to go. So when we landed in Salt Lake City, they had a police escort was there. One of the team staff members for the Jazz was there, and they were like, "Look, you know, are you guys okay? You need anything? Are you coming to the arena, or are you guys going to go home?" By the way, Darren Williams, who was our starting point guard, he was basically in foul trouble. He had like 3 fouls or 4 fouls in the third quarter. The backup point guard, because I wasn't there that night, he had suffered a neck injury and had been taken to the hospital. So staff guy was like, no pressure here at all. But if you are going to work, like, we got to go because we really kind of need you. So, and the men here can definitely relate to this, right? How in the hell are you supposed to go talk to your wife about going to work in this situation? And so, for whatever reason, I posed the question. And, you know, she was like, look, there's nothing that you can do by just riding home with us. Like, we're going to be safe. You know, we got family, people. I'm going to take them home. We're going to get some rest, go to work. So we're flying through Salt Lake City. It's like 10 minutes to the airport. Walk in the arena, haven't touched the basketball. I don't know why this was such big news that I wasn't there. So the cameras are like immediately in my face when I'm walking in. So I go to the locker room, do like 3 minutes of like push-ups and whatever, like sit-ups, throw my jersey on. And you know, in the playoffs, like, the teams put out the T-shirts on the seats, and it's like one night it could be white, it could be gold. You know, here in LA, you know, I don't even know if the Lakers do the T-shirts really. Like, you know, sometimes the Lakers be tripping.
Not right now, yeah.
Especially not right now. It's no T-shirts. So this particular night in Salt Lake City, the T-shirts were light blue. So as I'm walking out of the tunnel and start to exit the tunnel into the arena, I'm talking literally, it looked like a sky of blue everywhere, which is where the kind of the pearly gates reference kind of comes from. And I'm walking in, and I have a basketball in my hand, but I'm stunned, just kind of looking around like, is this real? Because I'm just going through the motions at this point. Like, my body's there, but my brain is not processing everything. So as I'm walking out, like, some of my teammates are greeting me, and I'm saying hello to them. And before I even can get to a seat to sit down, Jerry Sloan's like, "Fish, go in the game." And I'm like, which ultimately was probably the best thing that could have happened, because I sat down and started to think about what all was taking place and where I really felt, you know, emotionally, etc. Like, I probably would have gone back in the locker room. and so it was an amazing night. So I hit the shot. We win in overtime. There's so many things to the story. I just want to get to the last part of the post-game interview. Normally goes to the guy with the biggest stats, or that scored the most touchdowns or the most yards or scored the most points or whatever. I scored 5 points. Right? why, like literally, why is the post-game interview for me? I'm confused. Pam Oliver, who works with Fox Sports now, I think the game was on TBS or TNT or whatever. So we get into this interview, and she asked me, like, what's going on? Obviously we don't know the story, but, you were away dealing just with some personal stuff. And as a family, we had agreed not to share anything because, there are certain things you don't want to share until you know for sure, like, good or bad. But something in me just, like, led me to say, this is what's been going on. And the only reason I'm saying this is because there are kids and families at home right now who are noticing that there might be something a little off with your kid's eyesight, or the way that you can tell that something's off, and you're not trusting your instincts to just, like, go take them to the doctor, go make sure everything is cool, like, because had we not done that, we could have lost our daughter. And so the reason why this shot for me is number one is because that interview led to hundreds of articles around the world that then led to more doctors in other countries sending kids to New York to see the doctor that we saw. So my daughter's story, and, like, me scoring 5 points that led to the interview, that led to, like, now thousands of children whose eyes and lives have been saved because of that, like, that moment. That's why, for me, that's my favorite shot, because of the impact it had on so many other, like, families and people. Like, and doctors, like, are just, a doctor, like, made a joke about, he's like, so you know that, like, your daughter's story and you being, like, the basketball player that people read about and heard about has done more for medical research with this particular disease than any scientific journal we've ever published on it, like, which then goes to just, like, the impact of sports and why it's so special to us, and why we sometimes maybe too much expectations for our stars and our athletes, but at the same time, it's because we can be so impactful that we should be. And it doesn't mean that we're perfect, but when we are aware and connected, like, we can be impactful. So it was a special night for sure.
It was indeed, and Tatum's doing well.
Yeah, she's a 12-year-old little girl, like, so you wouldn't even know that she has 50% vision in her left eye. She's 20/20 in the right eye. And she's turning 13 in a couple months, and she's definitely on the teenage girl stuff right now. Like, it is.
Well,
yeah. It's a whole nother. We have to do another Thuzio event.
Well,
talk about teenage girls.
You might be able to get some expertise now on how to deal with teenage women. You're now the head coach of the LA Sparks.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
The next venture. I read a great article about you earlier about when it ended at the Knicks. You had to deal with other people's expectations about you and let them go, and then get back to what your core was as a coach.
Yeah.
So for all the fans out here, what's your core as a coach here in this opportunity, in this city, with this storied franchise in the WNBA?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, failures and mistakes and adversity and, Tiger Woods' Masters win this past Sunday, like, we're all human, and none of us are perfect. And I think that for me personally, I try to be, I don't want to say perfect, but I try to do things a very, like, specific way. And going back to, like I said, when I was younger, like, for me, thinking my way through the game was always my advantage. But I've also always put everybody else before me. And so after being fired in New York, and kind of like so going through being fired from a job publicly, still not having fully gone through the transition of not being a player and athlete anymore, which a lot of guys struggle with, I also went through that. I'd also been recently divorced right before that. So there was like divorce, co-parenting, fired from your job, no longer playing in the NBA. That all just kind of hit me at the same time. And so it took being fired from the job to move back to LA and like literally start to just let go of these expectations of what you used to be when you played, what people thought you should have been doing when you were coaching in New York, what your ex-wife thinks you should be doing. And I had to just like slow down and become really still and reconnect with me. And then on the airplane when they say, okay, in the event that there is turbulence, put your mask on first before you assist others. And I had lost the art of putting my mask on first, because it always has been about the team and my teammates and what he needs and what she needs and what my wife needs and what my kids need and what they need at work and there was significant parts of me that were just empty from giving myself away to everything and everybody else. And so not having those things, not having a job, not playing for the NBA anymore, not having a wife anymore, that forced me in very tough times to like, it's just you now, bro. Like you have to, just like when I was 16, like now I have to ask myself some questions about where do I want to go with this? Where's my life going? What's meaningful to me? What is my purpose, etc. Things that I could skip over when on Tuesday all I had to think about was playing against the Thunder, and then Thursday the Knicks, and then Saturday this, and then got to practice. There was always these distractions and things that could pull away from being centered and thinking about what I need. So now when I think about having the opportunity to coach and lead and teach again, it's reminding all of our players that, like, first of all, they're the greatest basketball players and athletes in the world, regardless of gender. And as much as I'm going to ask of you and demand of you at times to give yourself to the group and give yourself to the team, the only way you can really do that is to be on a very specific and intentional journey of like self-empowerment and self-love, and self-respect. Because if you're not whole and you're not strong and you're not operating at the highest spaces of being a woman and feeling good about who you are and feeling valued and appreciated, then you can't give yourself to the team in the full way. So to me, that's the focus, is helping. Like, of course it's about the team and we want to win it, but within a team, the individual members have to be operating at their optimal level. Otherwise, the team can't operate at its highest levels. And I want to help each player find what that is for herself, and then we'll connect it and blend it and mold it together, and we'll be greater because we're going to think about each other, individually. And I'm excited though, man. I've been golfing a lot more the last couple of years, and so since I left New York, I haven't gotten a chance to exercise my coaching muscles, right? It's like being on the driving range for 2.5 years and never ever getting a chance to go out on the course and actually swing a club and play. So this whole time I've been like, I can't wait. I can't wait to try this club. I can't wait to try this shot. I can't wait to see what happens when, I drive it to, so the coaching, I'm excited to get that out and explore that and succeed and fail and make the right adjustments, not make the right adjustments, but just constantly learning and going through this like self-discovery that we all kind of go through as we change, phases in life. But I'm thankful for it all, the good stuff, the bad stuff, and the fact that we're here, like, you know what I mean? Like it's something was done right along the way if we're sitting here. So I'm thankful, man. Seriously.
So on that note, before we let you go, we've talked about being raised by a village.
Yep.
Talked about being 16 and looking yourself in the mirror. Talked about that moment where you learned about what the NBA was and how there was a word you never heard of when they talked about, do you want to go to the show? Clearly, you're 18 years, huge moments. What do you know for sure?
That's the end of the question right there. That was nice. That was a good setup, Yogi. I was waiting for the rest too, like.
That's it, bro. That's it. What do you know for sure?
That I'm imperfect and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? That like, it's okay that I've never, that I'm not these things, or that everything hasn't gone right, that my marriage didn't work out, like all of the things that didn't, like it's okay actually, and I can still feel good about who I am. Like that's hard, and I've had to work at that and accept the fact that it is okay for those things to have happened, but that doesn't diminish who you are, right? It doesn't mean that you're not good enough or worthy enough, or that you can't be appreciated or loved or valued because you are imperfect. And so, for me, at least personally, becoming more accepting of that has been a journey. And so I know that for sure, and that's not going to change, because and now a new coaching opportunity, it's not going to go perfectly. In 3 years ago, when Luke Walton got hired by the Lakers, never could have imagined he'd be coaching in Sacramento now. But that's okay, because there's whatever his life journey is, the good things and bad things that have to happen in his life to lead to the places where he's supposed to be, where he's destined to be. You have to go through the imperfections. And I'm just at a place where I'm okay with that I can make a mistake, that I cannot do something that everybody else may approve of, but that I know that I'm making my best effort, that I know I'm living in my space to the best of my ability, and that's the only part that I can control. I can't control your perception, anybody else's feelings about me. And I can drop that now and leave it where it is and just focus on the things that I can control, and that's it. That's all I know.
Well, Derek, we've all seen you make huge shots. I think we all got to see a glimpse of you that no one has really seen tonight. Thank you for the time. Thank you all.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
That was awesome. But we're going to have to steal one more moment from you.
Okay.
Thanks to our friends at JPMC, and you actually know the person asking the question.
All right.
So it won't be that big of a problem. Oh, you don't. Rick passed it off.
Oh. We got
all right.
a question from the audience.
You got the question. Go ahead.
So in thinking about your basketball career,
Yep.
what's one lesson in basketball that you learned that you carry through in your life?
I would say that I don't know if there's anything in life that can be accomplished that is truly fulfilling by yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not in the sense of like you got to have a man or you got to have a woman, like not that by yourself. I'm talking about being a part of something and others and something bigger than just you. I just don't know if that exists, where you truly, in the deepest parts of who you are, feel the greatest sense of fulfillment and gratified in that there was a purpose and you were impactful by yourself. And to me, that's the greatest thing about sports, even the individual sport, you know, tennis, golf, whatever, NASCAR. You know how many people are around the driver, around the tennis player, the golfer? Like, you cannot do it by yourself. And a lot of us, you know, we put that pressure on ourselves thinking that it's us and we got to do it. And it's all, if I don't do it, it's not. And sometimes if we just ask for a little bit of support or help, let somebody know that, look, you're better at this than me. Let's work together and do something really special instead of each of us burning ourselves out trying to get to the same spot. Well, shit, let's just row in the same direction and get there, expend a little bit less energy, and then we have some energy left to do some more really special things. And so for me, that's what always, it's never been just about me. And I think that's what basketball has really taught me, that life is a team sport.
Lakers legend Derek Fisher.